Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Crimes, Killers, Cults,
and Beer.
and Beer. I'm Bill, and this is not my lovely co-host, Sandra. This is my lovely fill-in host, Nora.
Hey.
Hi, Nora.
How are you?
This is like her 5th appearance on this show.
Something like that. Second time it's been hey, I need a co-host in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I like those ones.
She's never let me down. But she was on for the troubled teen industry episodes that we did, as well as a couple others. And we're not going to talk too much about that because that's not what she's not really doing that anymore. She's kind of sick of it. And,
yeah, I got burnt out.
Yeah, that's understandable. But last night I did an interview with the very first Faith Assembly survivor that I've ever had on the show, other than myself.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It started off as an interview, but it kind of turned into a discussion.
Yeah.
but I'm not sure which one will come out first, whether it's this one or the interview. It'll probably be the interview because I haven't done a features episode in a long time. So
I'm excited to hear it.
But the guy was good. You know, he had never done anything like that before. He found my 2 episodes and he made a comment, thanking me for doing them on YouTube. And I messaged him back. I said, "Hey, you want to come on?" So I gave him the email address and he emailed me. We talked on the phone. I said, "Yeah." So he's like, "So when do you want to do it?" I said, "How about now?"
Nice.
He said, "Okay." So we did it completely off the cuff. He was, you could tell that he wasn't necessarily, he wasn't used to doing something like that, but he was fine.
There's always, you got to start somewhere.
Yep.
Same thing with me, especially when you're talking about traumatic stuff. And I've noticed that you have made quite a number of connections with other people who were in Faith Assembly.
But none of them have come on the show though. That was the first one.
Yeah,
which surprisingly, awesome. I've had cult survivors from other cults on, but never one from the one that I was raised in.
That's an exciting first for sure.
That was really cool. So tell everybody what you're up to now, Nora.
So I actually got involved with my local music scene in Salt Lake because I was looking for a therapist to help me with the troubled teen industry stuff. And after having over 100 local therapists give me some version of those places work, you just didn't do the work. I connected with Jake Segura, the frontman of a band called Citizen Soldier. And he invited me to a show that they were playing. It was September 18th, 2023. That was my first local show. And since then, I've gone to, I think I'm probably close to 200 local shows now. I've seen local bands in 6 other states. I run SLC Rock Renaissance now. It's on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, where it's basically an online publication covering our local music scene, as well as some artists who are touring artists who just have a strong connection here. We've got a number of those that have family here or consistently come back here just because they like playing.
And you do a podcast too, right?
So I'm working on that. I'm kind of helping other people with their projects at this point. But I'm putting together an outline for a podcast. I've started doing some interviews here and there. I've got one tomorrow with Neil Middleton from Royal Bliss, which is going to be exciting.
Oh, cool.
He's kind of like our local, like our biggest local rock star. But yeah, I'm starting to incorporate interviews. I've just been putting them on YouTube now, but I'm trying to organize that into a more formal podcast kind of setup.
That's cool. You're kind of following in my footsteps because a lot of people don't know that my first exposure into this type of thing was a heavy metal, indie metal show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was comedy. The first hour was just like what you would hear on like a radio, an FM morning show or whatever, and then
like back and forth banter kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then the second part was we would bring in a local, a band and interview them and stuff like that. And,
yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm just doing interviews for right now. They're just kind of standalone. To get myself back into that.
I was the number 3 talker on that because I put the show together and I was also the producer. So I was actually the number 3 talker. And if you go back, it's so cringe listening to myself on those old episodes. It's just I've come a long way.
So I got involved in podcasts because it was at the time called Surviving Abuse Podcast. And I think that might have been how you found me, is because I was doing TTI stuff with them. I was doing more like social media management, graphic design, that kind of stuff, marketing for that podcast, which oddly enough, we've come full circle and I'm doing that again, except now
you're in the big chair.
It's for a brand new podcast called The Vinyl Road with Brad Stewart from Saliva. He was also in Shine Down and Fuel, and Jason Bailey, big name radio host and podcaster from Florida. I have
what was his name?
Jason Bailey. He has the Bailey Show podcast, and then his other ones are Honey, I Raised the Kids, and then The Vinyl Road with Brad Stewart.
I think I've heard of The Vinyl Road.
It's a brand new one. Not. They're going to be releasing their 8th episode on Friday. But it's an awesome podcast. It talks a lot about like their memories, their stories of kind of like the mainstream music industry, the ups and downs of all of that. What rock and roll life is about. And it's a lot of fun. Those two are really fun to listen to, and I enjoy it. But I run a fan group called the Vinyl Roadies on Facebook for them.
That's cool.
We're at almost 500 members. When we get to 500 members, I'm going to do a giveaway with merch and stuff. But yeah, it's like I'm doing the same thing for their podcast as I used to for that one. And it's fun. But for SLC Rock Renaissance, it started with some photography that Citizen Soldier really liked. And I just continued that. And then Jake offered me an interview, which I have up on my Substack, which everything is under SLC Rock Renaissance. If anybody wants to find any of it, it's on like every platform.
Oh, very cool. So anyway, hashtag, but we digress. No. I let everybody plug their stuff when they come on the show, so it's only fair.
I mean, because we haven't talked in quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So, but this is episode 156, "The Murder of Air Force Captain Marty Theer," and this story takes place in December in Fayetteville, North Carolina, home of the 82nd Airborne Division. And I lived in Fayetteville a year or two back in 2012 and 2013. In fact, that's where I started my old radio show, the Will and Thunder Show.
That's cool.
It ran it's funny because I had forgotten that I had written that into the notes and we were talking about it, for a minute earlier. But that ran for 3 years. It was a very popular indie metal / comedy show. Although CKCB has now run longer than the old show by a few months. So
that's a milestone.
Yep. But I had heard about this story when I lived there, even 12, 13 years later, because this story had become a very local, infamous story that got told to every new person who moved to town. And I heard all kinds of crazy spins on it, like it was a military conspiracy or that the mafia was involved. And I'll talk about those at the end, after you know what really happened. Mm-hmm. Although the real story does take a pretty crazy twist on its own. I mean, I don't understand why these people felt the need to embellish this story and make things that didn't happen, because the story by itself is what really happened is crazy enough. But so let's dive in, shall we?
Let's go.
December 17th, 2000, around 10 p.m. Emergency crews in Fayetteville were dispatched to the Haymount neighborhood. On the 911 call, a woman frantically said that her husband had just been shot down right in front of her office. She was screaming, and it was difficult to understand what she was saying. The police and ambulance got there within 3 minutes, but the man had already died. It looked like the man was a victim of an armed robbery gone bad, but as the investigation proceeded, it became obvious that this was not just a robbery case gone bad. And it seems like that's the case, doesn't it? Like, armed robberies do go wrong, but it seems like more often than not, that's not the case,
Right. I don't know. Well, look, knowing the case and interestingly enough, I have been a military spouse myself since 2011. My daughter's dad is still active duty Air Force, and I was with him from 2011 to 2016. And then my current husband, we've been together since 2016.
Did you live in Fayetteville?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's actually
that would have been cool because if you had, we would have been living there around the same time.
Yeah. No, we actually got stuck in Montgomery, Alabama for 5 years.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I hated that. That was awful. But yeah, my current husband is he's currently getting medically retired from the Army National Guard. So yeah, I've done both the Air Force spouse thing and the Army spouse thing, which this case involves kind of both.
Oh, that's cool. You were the right choice to fill in for this episode because of your military background.
I can definitely speak to that side of like, it's not easy and it takes a special kind of person to be able to succeed, I guess, in a relationship and maintain one where your spouse is gone for long periods of time on a regular basis.
Right.
I've seen more marriages end than.
Hold on! Don't. I'm touching on that later on. But like the famous true crime saying, "It's never a mannequin." Mm-hmm. It's probably not an armed robbery gone wrong. But this was a cold-blooded execution, and Fayetteville would never be the same again. Sources for this are the documentary Sins and Secrets, Season 2, Episode 3, simply called Fayetteville, WRALnews.com, and a little bit of wiki. We've used this documentary on a couple episodes before. Episode 98, The Murder of Sandy Razzo, Dalia DiPolito, which is number 90, and 87, which is Bernie Teed. All three of those episodes were awesome episodes, so I expect the same out of this one. But no, it really is a really good documentary. But Fayetteville has always been associated with the military. When it was founded, it was named after the French General Marquis de Lafayette. It's not Lafayette, it's Lafayette. He served with George Washington in the Revolutionary War and was a decorated war hero of the United States. It was also a key location in the Civil War. Union General Sherman had occupied the city, but Confederates seized the Union arsenal from them in a rare defeat of Sherman. If I had gotten History Goon to come on here, he probably would have elaborated a lot more on that. But yeah, he's probably been on more episodes of this show than anybody, unless they were an actual member of the show. But in modern times, it hosts Fort Bragg and the 82nd Airborne, like I said before. And Fort Bragg is actually one of the largest military posts in the world at over 250 square miles. It also hosts Pope Army Airfield, which that's what it was at the time, or it was Pope Air Force Base at the time, but now it's Pope Army Airfield. But it also hosts the Army Special Forces Unit as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprisingly, the military is king in that city, and patriotism is always on high display there. I've lived there. I know these things.
Yeah. And it tends to be kind of similar in a lot of, especially southern, like military-based towns. Montgomery was kind of similar to that too. There was a strong sense of patriotism kind of throughout the city.
Yeah, well, you got, the 82nd Airborne is one of the most famous divisions in
Mhm.
all of in U.S. history.
And one of the most prolific.
Yeah. Right. Them and the 101st are pretty much neck and neck.
Mhm.
So, Fayetteville had been a peaceful city since the draft had been abolished in 1973. But prior to that, after Vietnam, thousands of disgruntled soldiers flooded Fayetteville. Some had drug problems and others had PTSD and others had both. Downtown Fayetteville was nicknamed Vietnam, and it had a high crime rate. And I remember hearing about that, hearing it called Vietnam. People still called it Vietnam. I'm like, why? They told me. But after the draft went away, things calmed down, and stayed that way until this story. Had to get a refill. So when police and EMTs arrived on the scene, they found a woman freaking out, hovering over a man who was on the ground who was bleeding profusely from gunshots. 5 to be specific. 4 in the torso, but the 5th was close range to the head. And that's why they initially thought it was a robbery gone wrong. Not to mention, this was an office building in a rough area. It all fit. I mean, the victim was a well-dressed, clean-cut, good-looking man, and he looked out of place there. The woman didn't look like she belonged there. She was also well-dressed and looked well off. She finally calmed down enough to tell them her name, Dr. Michelle Theer. The victim was her husband, Marty Theer, Air Force captain, who she had been happily married to for 9 years. They were high school sweethearts and had been happy their entire relationship. Michelle was an Air Force brat, and she had always wanted to marry a pilot. So she met Marty when she was 16 years old, and it was on. They were inseparable. When Marty graduated high school, he went to the Air Force Academy, but they stayed true to each other. 2 days after Marty graduated the academy, he and Michelle were married.
And that was 1991.
Yeah. Look at you mathing on my show.
I'm not. I have articles.
Look at you cheating.
Hey, I need to know what I'm talking about.
Marty quickly became a captain, and Michelle was with him every step of the way. They were ride or die for each other. And Michelle wanted her own career. There's nothing wrong with that, so she went to college and got a PhD in psychology. Talk about a frickin' power couple.
Right?
They had to separate briefly, because Michelle was finishing up her doctorate. And Marty got transferred to Pope Air Force Base, which is a place where all pilots want to go because it's on Fort Bragg. It's the best of the best. The place, that place flew F-16, A-10 Thunderbolts, and C-130s. And during World War II, it also hosted the P-51 Mustang, which was the precursor to the F-16. You ever seen a P-51 in action?
No.
Those little planes are bad.
I don't remember if I've seen one of the many air shows I've been to, but usually I have my kids with me, so I'm not really paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah, if you've been to air shows, I'm sure you've seen a P-51.
Probably, yeah.
But if you go ahead and Google it, you'll be like, yeah, I've seen one of them. They have a distinct look to them.
I probably have because, like I said, my ex-husband was in the Air Force, and we'd go out visit him at work all the time. And
every air show I've ever been to, there's been P-51s.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw one where they had an F-16 and a P-51 do a simulated dogfight.
That's cool.
Obviously, in real life, that was in Sumter, South Carolina, at Shaw Air Force Base. But in real life, obviously, the F-16 would have smoked the P-51.
Mm-hmm.
But they did that to kind of show you the maneuverability
Mechanics, yeah.
of the P-51. And the reason, it's the precursor because, the F-16 is one of the most maneuverable, can pull off some of the craziest moves, and the P-51 could do just the majority of them, which was
surprising for such a vintage aircraft like that.
Yeah, it was way out of its time during, it was way ahead of its time during World War II. I mean, they were just like, they dominated.
And I don't know too much about that, but I mean, I can imagine that that we're still using some of the technology that was used back then in that aircraft, or that aircraft taught our mechanics a whole hell of a lot to make it better.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like I said, an F-16 is going to smoke a P-51. Yeah. But what they did is they were announcing what they were doing over the PA system. It's like they were like, okay, the F-16 is going to do this maneuver, and they kind of explained it, and then the F-16 did it, and they're like, now watch this, and the P-51 did the exact same thing. It's like, holy crap!
An aircraft from 50 years before can keep up with something modern.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the same could be said for cars too.
Yeah. Well, any classic car that's been maintained is going to smoke anything that's made today. Like a 65 Mustang that's been kept in good condition is going to destroy one of these current Mustangs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, maybe in a side-by-side race it might not, but anything else as far as like maneuvers and stuff like that, the 65 is going to win every freaking time. Yeah.
Not a straight track.
Right. On a straight track, the new ones are going to win, but everything else, forget about it.
Crash tests.
Yeah, the new one would win at a crash test. And by win, I mean it would get crashed a lot worse. Because it's mostly fiberglass.
Yep.
So Mary excelled there. And Marty. Oh man, Marty excelled there. And when Michelle joined him there, she joined a very successful practice in Fayetteville. And this place in particular catered to military families. But still, Marty had long deployments, and Michelle began getting worried that he would cheat on her. And it is a legit concern because infidelity is not uncommon on military bases. Couples are apart for a long time, and unfortunately, it does happen.
When my ex-husband, the last, and this is actually not why we got divorced. We got divorced just because he was deployed for 3.5 out of the 5 years we were together. And we didn't know how to live together. We didn't know how to be a family.
That happens too.
It does. Luckily we have a really good co-parenting relationship. Everything, I mean, it was hard, but everything was very amicable. There was no infidelity involved. But that's not how most military relationships go or how they end. While he was on that deployment, 7 people who he'd gone with, who were friends of his and who were in his unit and all of that, they ended up divorced by the time they got home.
Well, I'm going to touch on that here in a minute. Like I said, don't get ahead.
It's incredibly common.
I've got things that I've witnessed firsthand that I'm going to talk about. But she developed the idea in her head that Marty had cheated on her, but he hadn't. But Michelle didn't believe him. In July of 2000, she left Marty for a trial separation. Thoughts so far?
After they had tried marriage counseling that failed.
Right.
I think that... And it's interesting because I have gone to a marriage counselor that caters to military families, and she absolutely very much took my ex-husband's side. She didn't like to let me speak. Every time he said something, she'd agree with it. And every time I said something, she had something to say about my past trauma. And it was not a conducive atmosphere for healthy counseling, period.
Right.
Because that was not a neutral mediator. That was somebody who is kind of trained to take the military member's side. I don't know what the case was for Marty and Michelle, but having kind of experienced that could be one reason why it failed, and not just because they didn't want to do it.
Right. But they did reconcile, and Michelle moved back home. They decided that they were meant to each other, and things went back to normal. So they say. But a few months later, Marty would be dead. Shell casings found on the scene were from a 9mm, but it took a bit to determine what model they were fired from. Michelle said that they were together that night out on the town, but she had to stop by her office on the way home. She had to get some things that she was working on and wanted to work on it that night and get a head start on it for the next day. Marty waited in the car while Michelle walked up the outside staircase to her office and went inside. And while she was inside, she heard what she initially thought was a car backfiring. By the way, this is just like it's never a mannequin. It's never a car backfiring.
Cars don't backfire 5 times in a row in rapid succession.
No. It's never a mannequin. It's probably not a robbery gone wrong, and it's never a car backfiring.
If you're in Utah, then it's probably fireworks.
Yeah. Well, fireworks. I thought it was fireworks. That's another thing that it hardly ever is, but
in our neighborhood Facebook group, there's a joke. Like, there's at least 3 or 4 posts a day. Fireworks or gunshots? It's never gunshots.
Michelle opened the door and saw Marty lying at the bottom of the stairs, bleeding. There was blood spatter at the top of the staircase. The police figured that he had run to the top of the stairs after the perp had opened fire on him. He was shot 4 times at the top of the stairs because those shots were from a distance. Marty fell, rolled down the stairs, and the perp shot him in the head. This seemed initially to be what happened after a forensic investigation, but Michelle and Marty had driven separate vehicles, and his wallet, keys, and cash and cards and everything were still in the car. So maybe this was a robbery. If it wasn't a robbery, what the hell was it? And who would want Marty dead? I mean, he was well liked in the community and everything.
Well, you know what they say about murders. It's usually the person closest to you.
Yeah, that's usually the spouse. But anyway, we haven't had a knife yet, so I'll just say put a knife in that.
Oh, I should get a knife to keep on my desk.
I didn't hear the knife, but oh well. I'll add it later. I'll add it later if it's not there.
Okay.
At first, police were looking to see if he had any enemies, but then they thought, take a guess.
Look close to home.
Yep, it's always a spouse, so Michelle became a suspect. And I'm going to keep score on here.
What are we scoring?
We're scoring how many times I tell you to take a guess and you get it right. Because on the last episode, Sandra set a record for getting it right. I want you to break her record.
Okay.
I think she got like 8.
Wow.
But
what are we at? 1?
That was 1 right there. So
yeah. We're both taking track now.
At first, police I already said that. Oh. No, I didn't say that. At first, police were looking to see if he had any enemies. Then they thought, so yeah, I did say that already.
Yeah. Look.
They even asked her point blank if she had killed her husband, and of course she denied it because she's innocent.
They always do.
But what do you think the police did next? Take a guess.
Probably checked her phone and her online presence.
Nope.
Let her go?
Nope. Well, yeah, they did let her go, but
I don't know.
Okay, I'm not gonna count this one against you because this is kind of a this one was kind of hard, and I did that just to trip Sandra up. But they sent out a police dog who is a good boy to scout out the scene. The dog picked up Marty and Michelle's scents, but they also picked up the scent of a third person.
So it couldn't have been the spouse.
Mm. The scent of this third person led the dog away from the office and into the woods, then into a neighborhood. So Michelle's free and clear at this point. Literally, everything that's happening, whether it's the forensic investigation or the good boys investigation, literally everything's matching up with Michelle's story. The third person didn't live in this particular neighborhood. They knew this because the neighborhood was one that was under construction. Nobody lived there yet. The scent of this third person ended.
That's where he stashed the car.
Huh? No, he didn't smash
Getaway car?
No. But they did lose the scent of the third person in a cul-de-sac. So, I don't know. He may have had a car waiting there. That may have been where he parked the car.
That would be my guess. Scent suddenly disappears, especially on a roadway. Probably got in a car.
Probably. Although that doesn't check out with what he... But then again, this is something that he says later on. Well, the third person. In an interview the next day, Michelle said that despite them reconciling, she still thought Marty was cheating on her. This made her go out and find affection from another Air Force officer. And before you groan at that, like I said, I have lived in Fayetteville. I've also lived in Clarksville, Tennessee, where the 101st Airborne is at Fort Campbell. I've seen married couples out together. You would see this a lot. One night the married couple would be out together. The next night you'd see the wife out with another man. The next night you'd see the husband out with another woman.
Swingers.
Or just
affairs.
Somebody's got to go. Somebody's got to be at home with the kids.
Yep. I mean, there are a lot of swinging type relationships in the military. You'd be surprised at how many actually are.
There's swingers relationships everywhere.
Yeah, there are. But there is a high prevalence of them in the military. And I think part of the reason that people at least give that kind of lifestyle a shot is because, and they recognize that that's there, but also companionship. When your spouse is gone for long periods of time and you're left home alone, and in this case, Michelle was in school. All she had to do was go to and from school, work at her job at the therapist's office. And I know that part of what they talked about in marriage counseling was the fact that she wanted to be able to go out at night and enjoy herself outside of her job and her education. And he wanted to stay home and not spend that time with her. So that seems like it was at least part of, the foundation of the issues between them, is that they just wanted to live different lifestyles.
I mean, one time, when I lived in Clarksville, I was working two jobs. I had a job, doing maintenance and groundskeeping at an apartment complex, and I delivered pizza at night. Mm-hmm. And one time I went on post, I went on to Fort Campbell, delivered to this house, and, there was a guy in the garage, and the woman came out, and also this little toddler, comes up with mom, and I'm handed the food over and all that stuff, and the little kid says, "My daddy's in the field," and there was another dude, like I said, in the garage.
I mean, it's disturbingly common. I mean, and I'm sure, like, as a somebody who works in the trucking industry, you've seen it too. Anytime when your spouse is not there, that's not a lifestyle that everybody can live well and succeed at. You need to be very independent, and you need to be okay with your spouse missing a lot of stuff, and not let that turn into resentment toward your spouse. If you're going to have resentment toward the employment or the military or whatever it is. Be mad at the job and the requirements of the job rather than the person you're living with and who just happens to be doing that.
Oh, job. I get it. I mean, I wouldn't have brought the kid into it like that.
But a lot of people don't think about that and don't realize beforehand. They don't realize a lot of people say, well, you knew what you were getting into. You don't really until you live it.
Right.
I mean, you can have an idea, you can have warnings of like, this is what other people experience. These are patterns that seem to come up, but you never know how it's going to affect you or your relationship until you've lived that. And like I said,
Right.
in my case, being gone for, 6 to 15 months at a time, while I was home with kids, I spent one entire deployment pregnant with severe hyperemesis. And in that same time, both my grandparents and my mom all died. And he
Right.
couldn't come home. Like, that wasn't an option. I had to push through, and I had to deal with it on my own. And I had to make sure that me and my kids got through all of that.
Yeah.
And that wasn't his fault, but a lot of people will develop resentment toward their spouse for not being there for big things like that when they need to be, or they feel like they need somebody. And then the other side of it is being in the military. Obviously, people move around a lot. When we moved to Montgomery, I got stuck with no support system in a city that I knew nothing about. I had no friends, no family, and I was home with a newborn and a toddler all the time. So I didn't have time to go out and meet people, friends or otherwise. So when I got divorced, I had nobody. I was completely alone. And I had to figure everything out on my own. But yeah, that's definitely a dynamic that gets thrown into any relationship, I think, where one spouse or both are traveling a lot. They're spending a lot of time away and outside of the home. You don't have time to maintain the emotional bond that you have with each other.
Right.
And the physical
Hey.
closeness is part of that.
Could you turn your speakers down a little bit? I'm hearing an echo in my headphones.
How's that?
But
Is that better?
check.
Check.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
Yeah, I was hearing myself coming through the speakers. So, cool. So,
But yeah, that being away from your spouse, not having that physical companionship, obviously, in a lot of cases, people go outside of the marriage to get that need met.
yeah. But so the infidelity thing wasn't much of a surprise to the police. This man who Michelle had hooked up with was an Army Ranger, and she had moved in with him during their trial separation. But she stopped seeing him when Marty decided to, that she and Marty decided to reconcile. But take a guess.
She didn't stop seeing him.
Right. That's 2. And the Ranger didn't want to let Michelle go, and she didn't want to let him go. But Michelle said that he was threatening suicide if Michelle left him. So what do you think about that?
I mean, you see that a lot in relationships that are on the rocks. Pretty much in every age group. I think it's that mental manipulation of, nothing else I've gotten gets them to stay.
Let's circle back to that. Let me tell you about this guy, and then I'll ask you again.
Okay. Because in most cases like that, I think it's really just trying to manipulate someone into staying and not recognizing your own toxic behavior that caused the separation to begin with.
Yeah, put a knife in that. Police tried to get the name of this ranger, and Michelle gave it up. It was Sergeant John Diamond. John Diamond was a decorated soldier, but he was also married. But he was the type that I mentioned a minute ago. He married a woman, cheated on her, divorced her, married the woman that he had cheated on with his first wife, or married the woman that he had cheated on his first wife with, but that came with an understanding that he could still sow his wild oats. Wife number 2 was okay with that.
If you do it to one, you're going to do it to the rest.
Mm-hmm. So Diamond was a badass, and you don't get that title by accident. You get that title by being a stone cold badass. He had skills in hand-to-hand combat, commando tactics. He was a black belt in several different martial arts. He's not somebody that you want to fuck with.
No.
But he was also heavily skilled in something else. Take a guess.
Marksmanship.
Yep, he was a sniper. Not to mention, he was also a crack shot with a handgun. That's 3. Go ahead and say it right now. Just say, I'm coming for you, Sandra.
I'm coming for you, Sandra.
Police brought John Diamond in for questioning, and he had an alibi. Take a guess.
He was
Just the most common alibi you could possibly think of.
at work or on a date or at home sleeping.
He was at home with
his wife.
There you go. That's 4.
Who then corroborated his alibi because she's scared shitless of him.
I don't know if she was scared shitless, but yeah, she did corroborate.
Does that count? Is that 5?
That's 4. He also said that he didn't personally own a 9mm. The police asked him to take a gun residue test. No, he didn't own. I see you looking at me. He didn't personally own one.
Legally? Or that was on paper?
No, he used them in training and stuff, but those were Army issued handguns. He didn't personally own one.
If you're that good a shot with a handgun, you'd think he'd have a 9.
He didn't have one. I mean, the source was very adamant about the fact that he did not own one. In fact, well, we'll get to that.
I'd be curious to know what his EDC was.
Put a knife in that.
So I'm assuming he was shot with a 9mm?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, at this point they haven't determined which brand of 9mm it was, but we're getting to that too.
Probably a Glock because military.
Wasn't the Glock. But the police asked him to take a gun residue test because you can't just wash that off. But what did he say? Take a guess.
I was at the range earlier today.
Holy crap! You got that. That's 5. He was at a firing range with a pistol earlier that day, and he said, you might as well not even bother giving me a residue test. He had residue on his hands. The
military can corroborate that because they will say,
right.
Yes, we were training.
And he had receipts.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't just dust for residue. Spinal Tap reference there.
I wonder if that date was significant in any way or why that date was chosen.
What date?
December 17th. The day that his Army unit had range practice scheduled.
How
intentional could that have been? Because he'd know about that. He'd know about that at least a week ahead of time.
But there's no way to tell what gun any type of residue came from. It's just residue. It could come from a Derringer or it could come from an M16. It's just residue.
Mm-hmm.
But he had receipts from the range earlier that morning, and his wife confirmed his alibi. She said that they were together the night before. They had dinner, they watched a movie, they went to bed, and had breakfast together the next day. So John Diamond was no longer a suspect. So who done it? Put a knife in that.
But he wasn't the only one she was having affairs with.
Right.
I'm pretty sure a number of sordid details about her sex life came out during trial.
I don't know, honestly.
But
could you turn it down a little bit more? Could you turn those speakers down a little bit more?
Yeah. Okay.
But December 28, 2000, Marty was buried in a military cemetery. Military cemetery. That try saying that 5 times fast. Military cemetery.
Military cemetery, military cemetery, military cemetery, military cemetery, military cemetery.
I'm going to make a drop out of that. That's awesome.
Drama kid for the win.
Not sure which one, but police were still looking into John Diamond. Something didn't add up, so they told him that they had cleared him, but they hadn't.
Surveillance!
He was still the prime suspect. He had a motive. According to Michelle, he was obsessed with being with her. John had the perfect alibi. So why were they? So why were they still on him? Take a guess.
Did the wife say something?
No.
Did one of his buddies say something?
It's about the alibi. His perfect alibi.
His wife was asleep during a certain number of hours.
No. Come on.
They didn't actually go to dinner? There was something about that they couldn't corroborate.
No. It was about his alibi. His perfect alibi.
Does it have to do with the range?
Sorry, you missed that one. His alibi was too perfect.
Ah. Probably that he was using the same wording when he described everything and it sounded too rehearsed.
Right. But yeah, he was with his wife all night. They did get up and eat breakfast, and he did go shooting, and he had a receipt to prove it in the morning. But the morning after the murder. So it smelled fishy. His alibi was too perfect.
Everything lined up too well. There's no coincidence there.
Right. Now, I'm not talking shit about the investigation in this case. I mean, the police were brilliant in this.
Yeah. I mean, how many people get picked up for a firearm murder the day that they go to a gun range?
Right.
Like none. It's like almost unprecedented.
But they had to find the murder weapon to match it up to the casings that were found. And I think, this is just my personal opinion, I think that there would have been an easier way. This one, not going to count against you if you get it wrong. This is just a guess. It's just a random guess. This is just based on what, my opinion. What would have been an easier way to match the, to match up if it was actually John that was there on the scene, rather than trying to find the murder weapon and all that stuff.
Casings usually have fingerprints and DNA.
Well, there were no fingerprints to be found. I mean, he didn't touch anything.
Not even the casings when he was loading the gun?
No, I don't know. But still, I think there would have been easier way.
Cameras? I mean, this wasn't 2000. There should have been cameras outside.
Have the good boy smell something of John's and then have the dog hit the scene again.
About the dog.
Yeah, the good boy. He's a good boy. I think all dogs are good boys.
Yes. Or good girls. Mine are good girls.
Well, good girl doesn't roll off the tongue the same way good boy does.
No.
Who's a good girl? I mean, it just doesn't. It just doesn't flow.
No, it doesn't.
So
did they use the dog?
No, the dog. They didn't use the dogs again. But I mean, you would think that they could have, or maybe it rained. Maybe it rained. Who knows? I bet that's. I'm serious. I bet that's what it was. It probably rained, or snowed or whatever, because it was in December.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean those southern storms. I don't know if it snows there. You would know.
You get ice storms there.
Yeah,
and it does. It does snow, but ice storms are a lot more common.
All along the coast, from like the Carolinas all the way down. Those are intense storms.
Yeah, it could have. It probably rained in between the time that
and it's also hurricane season.
Not in December.
Up that way, they get more like November to February than at least more so than down south more.
It ends in late November, and October, November is the most active time in Florida.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Hurricane Milton hit last year during November.
It looks like you were right. According to Weather Underground, on the early morning of December 17th and evening of December 19th, it rained in Fayetteville.
Okay, that's staying in.
So, yes, you won that one. It rained.
Okay. All right, cool. That good find. Seriously.
I actually found it is the Weather Underground Historical Archive. And you can search city by city or airport, date and time, and it'll show you the whole day's weather. I found that when I was working on my TTI deaths spreadsheet, because I went and looked up what the temperature was for all the heat stroke deaths.
So it did rain. Good
Yes,
find.
it did.
On February 15th, 2001, February 15th, it took almost 2.5 months to get the results back. The results from the casings came back. It was one of two guns. They were both Smith & Wesson. There was either the 639 or the 5906 model.
What
police began?
What make was it?
Smith & Wesson.
I'm partial.
Police began interviewing everybody who knew John, but interviews confirmed John's story about him not owning a 9mm. I mean, he probably had like a 45 or a 357 or something like that, but he for whatever reason didn't have a 9. But
which friend did he borrow it from?
We're getting there.
Earlier that day at the range.
Everybody, it was before that. But everybody who was interviewed all said that John wasn't the type who would kill a fellow officer. He, like Marty, was a very good soldier who came through the ranks quickly and earned every promotion and medal that he got.
But those are two different branches, and there's
right. But still,
the loyalty doesn't carry over the same way it would if it was the same branch. So,
well, but still, a soldier's not going to care. A soldier's not going to kill an airman. An airman's not going to kill a marine. A marine's not going to kill a sailor. I mean, it just
without reason or motive,
right? But
or mystery.
Peyton Donald, another officer who really went to bat for John. They were friends and they had served together in Panama. But Peyton Donald told the police that he did in fact own a Smith & Wesson 5906. So police wanted that gun, and of course they did. They asked for the gun, and Donald said that he didn't have it. They asked him where it was now, and Donald said that he had, take a guess,
lent it to John Diamond.
Right.
Yay, that's 6.
That's 6.
Watch out, Sandra.
She's coming for you, Sandra. So, police wanted that gun. I already said that. Donald said that John Diamond had it. Donald had loaned it to John 3 different times, and of course, one of the times was when?
That day at the range.
That's 7. Well, it wasn't at the range, but before the murder. They demanded that Peyton Donald get the gun back from John, and so Donald contacted John, and he told Diamond the Fayetteville police wanted to test the gun and he needed it back.
I lost it.
How?
Stolen.
From?
His car.
That's another one.
Okay, Sandra, we're tied.
I think I can't remember exactly how. I'll have to go back into that episode at the end and listen and let you know. But I got a feeling you're going to smash her record.
Oh yeah, I will.
And I'm going to rub it in too. And I'll do it on the next episode I record with her.
I love it.
Where was I?
Stolen from his car.
Right. But Diamond. Oh, okay. Diamond told Donald that he would bring the gun to him that same day, but Diamond called the MPs on his own. His car had been broken into, and the gun was stolen.
Wonder who did it.
The window was smashed, everything. But this was the early 2000s, and car stereos were still a hot item to steal at that point.
Not wrong.
Diamond had a nice car stereo. He drove a Camaro, a late model Camaro at the time, and it was either Camaro or a Firebird. But Diamond's stereo was still in the car. So it seemed he wanted people to believe that somebody had smashed his window just to take the gun that he probably had up underneath the seat or something like that. He didn't have it
in the glove compartments, not somewhere in
somewhere visible. Yeah,
it would entice somebody to break into a car.
Right. Nobody's going to, what they're doing with car stereos now. Nobody's going to steal one. No. It's not conducive for them to steal a car stereo anymore. You can't just say, "Hey, I got this," because you're ripping. If you do that now, you're ripping out half the freaking dashboard.
Yeah.
So good on the manufacturers for doing that way, because car stereo theft is no longer
having to take the faceplate off when you leave the car.
I had one of those.
I did too. Take it with you.
But Diamond had implicated himself on other crimes with this staged break-in. The car was on post. It's against the law to have a privately owned gun on post.
Yep. You have to have it registered and
you have to have it registered.
Armory.
Yep.
You have to have it registered to you, but you also can't have it in your residence on post or on base. It has to be in the armory. You have to go check it out. You have to give them a time frame of how long you're going to have it. You have to tell them where you're taking it. There's like all kinds of rules around owning firearms when you are a military member, especially when you're living on base.
Another reason I'm glad I had you on this one, because I had questions about how that worked.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to register. You have to have it registered, like with the state, whatever. But then you also have to have it registered with your military branch.
And even then, you can't have it in your house. It has to be locked up in the armory.
No. It has to be in the armory, yeah. Because when we moved to Montgomery, my ex took all of his firearms to his mother's house because we were going to be living on base, and he wouldn't be able to take them. He wouldn't be able to have them. He would have had to have them in the armory.
Could you turn your volume down a little bit more? I don't know why. It seems like it keeps creeping back up. But I mean, if it gets to the point to where you're having trouble hearing, then don't worry about it. I'll do what I can with it when I fix, when I edit the episode. But I was wondering about that. But that might explain why so many people decide to live off post, when even despite the fact that they get free rent, free room and board, free electricity, free water.
It's technically not free. So you're given a certain amount of allowance. It's a housing allowance that aligns with the average rent of the city that you're living in. If you live on base, you just don't get that. So it's like a trade-off. Like either they give you money for rent that's about the same amount as rent in the area if you're living off base, and if you're living on base, then they just don't give you that. Like it's in your paperwork as like you were given it and then they took it back, kind of thing.
Okay. So after the police or the MPs searched Diamond's car, Diamond was arrested. You might say that he was a diamond in the rough.
A diamond in Leavenworth?
Diamond was interrogated about the gun and about the murder of Marty Theer, and he pled the fifth. As far as the MP and the Fayetteville police were concerned, John Diamond was the murderer of Marty Theer, and the Military Justice Department charged Diamond with first-degree murder. He had the same weapon that killed Marty, the same model, and he was in a relationship with Michelle. Coincidence?
Again, too many coincidences lined up is no longer a coincidence.
Right. Air conditioner was freezing me. But John Diamond wasn't going to go down with a fight. And he had an ace of diamonds up his sleeve that would shift the blame to somebody else. Yeah, it's too bad he didn't have an ace of spades.
Was her name Michelle?
Of course it is, but suspend disbelief for right now. Meanwhile, this goes back to what you were saying. Meanwhile, sentiments between the Air Force and Army were becoming biased. Each branch was taking sides because what everybody sees is an Army soldier who allegedly killed an Air Force captain. Michelle Theer was holding to her story and even accepting blame, saying that if she hadn't messed around with John Diamond, her beloved husband would still be alive.
That's why she pulled the he was obsessed with her story.
Right. Still, John Diamond was on trial for murder, and it was being done in a military court. But everybody who knew John said that he wasn't a lovesick, obsessive type. He was a player who liked playing with married women.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not going to get obsessed with, with somebody that he's messing around with.
One thing psychologically that I've learned about serial cheaters is it's not so much that they want the physical benefits that come from the cheating. It's rush they get from breaking, from doing something wrong.
Like Deep Purple says, it's not the kill, it's the thrill of the chase.
Yes. And so when, say, he gets divorced or she gets divorced and they're looking at marriage, it's no longer fun anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we get to that later on in
the have your cake and eat it too kind of thing.
Right. So the defense's main strategy was pointed at the fact that Marty Theer had been shot 5 times. John Diamond was a sniper and a marksman with both rifles and pistols. He would have only needed 1 bullet, especially from that short of a distance. But the prosecution said that was part of Diamond's plan to deflect attention away from him.
That's what I was going to say.
But I'm not a marksman, but I am a guitar player. And it's not easy to intentionally screw up a guitar solo. I mean, there's proof of this. If you watch the guitar duel scene in the movie Crossroads, where Steve Vai loses a duel to Ralph Macchio, his Vai's parts where he's screwing up are so forced. It was even more painful to listen to. If Steve Vai can't even fake sucking, I wonder if it's the same with a marksman. Seriously.
If you think about it, okay. When you're doing anything like that, especially when you know it's wrong, or it is something that's that intense, you're going to be dealing with adrenaline. There's nothing you can do to stop that. And so adrenaline can produce shock-like symptoms like shaking. So there is a chance there that maybe his marksmanship wasn't quite on because he was anxious. He was nervous. And
I'm pretty sure he's killed people on the field of battle before.
I think that's different though, because that's justified. He has
but
authorization.
Then again, this is also pre 9/11 as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Depending on when he came, he might not have been. He might not have been old enough to have been in like Desert Storm.
Yeah, that's true. And so a lot of his overseas kind of stuff would have been
covert. He was special ops.
Yeah, but again, that's a mission. That's what you're told to do. That is a different mindset. Unless he was able to put himself in the same mindset as that, and he might not have been able to.
He intentionally shot the guy 5 times, but still,
or it was there were 5. One of the two.
There were 5 casings. There were 5 bullet holes in Marty. If you're just going to open fire, oh my God, that points even more to Diamond, because of the fact that if you're just randomly shooting like that, you're going to miss sometimes. Mm-hmm. He never missed. He did not miss.
Yeah,
he hit him 5 times.
And where was he shot? Wasn't there 1 shot in the head, 1 in the arm, and the rest were in the
4 in the torso, 1 in the head.
Then that's how they're trained. That's how police officers and military are trained. Shoot for center mass. not for the head because it's a smaller target.
He did the head when he tumbled down the stairs and just
and it was easy.
Point blank.
And it was easy.
Right. Right.
They're basically taught
oh
to
my
take an
God.
easy shot.
We're all right. I'm not impressed. Sins and Sinners documentary series on this one. That's two things right now that we've uncovered that that y'all didn't. So I'm calling you out.
Yep. I mean, yeah, if you think about that, if you look at police shootings, they're always center mass. Because that's how they're trained. They're trained to shoot at the area that it's most likely to incapacitate the target, to neutralize the threat.
My biggest thing was he didn't miss at all.
No.
There were five holes in him. There were 5 casings found.
Mm-hmm. And they were all where he intended to shoot.
Right.
Based on his training.
So he wasn't fudging it. He wasn't fudging it like Steve Vai did in that god awful guitar duel scene where freaking Ralph Macchio.
He was trying.
Go on YouTube and look for the Crossroads guitar duos, like how it would have actually sounded if it was played the way that Ralph Macchio was playing it.
If he was trying to suck, he would have shot for the lower body, and there would have been leg shots.
Right.
Because that's really the only place that they're taught isn't like to neutralize the threat.
But that just goes back to what I'm saying. He doesn't know how to miss.
Right.
Like a guitar player doesn't know how to intentionally fudge a solo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can accidentally fudge a solo, but you can't intentionally fudge one.
He did exactly what his training told him to do.
Yep. So, but the prosecution said that this was intentional so as to make Marty suffer and know what was happening, but that doesn't check out either because he was pretty much dead instantly. So the prosecution, we just made a better case than the prosecution did against John.
Yeah.
John did have the alibi of being with his wife, but during the investigation between then and now, what do you think?
She got pissed and she decided to tell him he wasn't actually there, or I was asleep. I don't know.
One step further.
She told me he did it. I don't know then.
She divorced him.
Ah.
But I'm going to go ahead and give credit on that one because you basically said everything but that. So that's 9.
Yes. I'm winning.
I don't know. I don't know. I'll let you know what the final tally, because I'm gonna have to go back into the episode and get the final thing. But the prosecutor called his now ex-wife to the stand, and she said yes, they were watching a movie together, but he left during the movie, and this puts a hole in John's alibi, and the hole that was right around him at the time that. What the hell did I write there? This puts a hole in John's alibi, and that hole was right around the time that Michelle and Marty were out that night.
Ooh.
The prosecutor said, God, I can't talk tonight. The prosecutor said that John followed Michelle and Marty, and when she went inside her office, John opened fire from the nearby woods. And this fits with what our good boy Canine picked up. August 24th, 2001. We're still pre 9/11. John Diamond was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in a military prison with no parole. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week. No. That is not the end of the story.
No, it is not.
After the trial, Michelle seemed relieved, and commotion in Fayetteville died down until John's attorney requested clemency. He came up with a 13-page declaration of events according to John. This is John's confession. In early December of 2000, one of John's mistresses, Michelle Theer, who he had been having an affair with for several months, called him asking if she could borrow a pistol from him. She said that she was scared of her husband and needed protection from him. John gave her the gun that she had borrowed from Peyton Donald. She asked John to meet her at her office on December 17th around 11 p.m. for a rendezvous. John got there just before 11. I think at the beginning of this episode I said 10. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But just before 11 o'clock, John got there and parked across the street. Now this, I mean, I'm not saying that your theory about about he had the car parked in the cul-de-sac is wrong, because this is just what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
It probably was parked in the cul-de-sac. That's probably why they lost the scent.
Mm-hmm. That's almost always why they lose the scent, because a vehicle was involved. Right.
So then Michelle and Marty pulled up in separate vehicles. John was confused, but suddenly he heard gunshots and he hit the ground out of instinct. He got up and went around the corner and saw Michelle standing over Marty with the gun in her hand.
Why was he even there?
Well, he was there to get some nookie.
But why would she have
told him
John?
This is John's. Well, that's why he said he was confused. Yeah, this is just John's story.
Is he saying that that's her setup? That's how she's going to blame him?
Let me finish what he said. He said that he had no idea that Michelle planned on killing Marty, but he was in love with Michelle and he agreed to help her cover up the murder. So the two took off on a road trip to Florida. John dismantled the gun and they dropped pieces of it in dumpsters along the way. But right around the time they got back, the police came looking for the gun, and this was when he faked the break-in to his car. John's attorney said that he was guilty of being accessory after the fact, as well as being incredibly stupid, but he was not guilty of murder. The attorney actually said that on the documentary.
Wow. That's a fire quote. I.e. a quote that will get you fired.
But this is after the fact, so he can say whatever he wants, especially if a documentary crew comes knocking at your door. But this didn't work. But they didn't take the life sentence away, but they did reopen the case. But if Michelle wanted to be with John rather than Marty, she could have just divorced him. She didn't need to kill him.
Right. I mean, that's what most people say.
Yeah. But there were reasons for her to kill Marty. Take a guess.
Her reasons or legit reasons?
She had reasons for wanting to take Marty out.
Insurance.
Got it. That's 10.
Sweet. Yep, that's where I'm at too.
But Marty's life insurance policy.
Are we sure? And was this a private insurance policy, or is this the policy that you can get through the military?
I'm getting to that right now.
Okay.
This was a private. This is an insurance policy that he had taken out on himself, on his own. But so there was the $500,000, not to mention all of the military benefits.
Yeah, I was going to say that's at least another $200,000.
Yeah. So, what I said, she had 500,000 reasons. She actually had about 750,000 reasons.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the policy that my husband has through the military, he can get, I think it starts at 200,000, and then you can increase it, and there's certain brackets, you have to have served a certain amount of time to.
They were a power couple. They were a power couple. He had probably maxed it out for everything that he could.
She had a doctorate in psychology. She was making more than he was.
Right, but she's but still, if he's a captain in the Air Force, he's still not. He's not making grunt money.
Nope.
He's making good money. So yeah, she made more, but still. So, but he probably maxed out everything that he could get through the military. So we're probably talking over $1 million here.
Oh, easy, yeah. And then on top of that, there's medical benefits, there's health insurance benefits, there's spousal benefits that you get long term after a spouse dies, especially if they're still in service.
Yeah.
And it's more so for active duty than it is for guard or reserve. So,
yeah. So the initial trial had been through the military, but now Michelle was charged with murder by Fayetteville. On May 21st, 2002, Fayetteville PD went to arrest her they had a warrant, but Michelle was sneaky. She was much more of an opponent than the legal system of Fayetteville or the military had ever conceived of, because she was gone. Poof, vamoose, vanished with no forwarding address.
Or her original nose.
You're getting ahead of yourself. But this made big news. I mean, national news crews flooded Fayetteville. The U.S. Marshals even got involved. 3 months later, the Marshals noticed that Michelle's family was getting lots of phone calls from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, from a man named Dana Horton. The Marshals figured that this might be a new boyfriend of Michelle. So they put a tail on Horton, and they confronted him at his apartment, in front of his apartment. But he said he had no idea who Michelle Theer was. Guess why?
Probably because she was having an affair with him.
No, why didn't she know that? Why didn't he know who Michelle Theer was?
Probably because somebody made up the name, and they just happened to find somebody who had the same name. Like in wasn't that the case with Casey Anthony?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure she said that she left Kaylee with a babysitter. Weird. It was like Zanaya or something like that, like an odd name, and they just happened to find someone who had the same first and last name.
No, that this man was dating Michelle, but he didn't know her as Michelle.
Oh, so she was using a fake name,
right? So he didn't know her by that name, and they showed him pictures and told him that she was wanted for murder. He didn't recognize the pictures either. He brought them inside, and the woman inside looked nothing like Michelle. She swore that her name was Lisa Pendragon.
That's what she picked?
That's not a very good alias.
No, pick something more badass.
No, pick something more plain.
Jane Doe.
Mary Smith.
Right.
But the marshals were about to leave, but one of them noticed something. She had just had plastic surgery done. That same day, she had a laser peel done on her face, and he noticed that her face was swollen. The marshal was apparently familiar with that procedure and knew what the after effects of it looked like.
Probably because his wife got him done.
Yeah. Probably, or somebody in his family.
Mm-hmm. Regularly enough that he would notice the pattern and how it changes.
So he knew what he knew what he was looking at.
Yeah.
So Michelle was arrested and went back and sent back to Fayetteville, and the story went crazy there at that point. It was a media circus. But Michelle told the same story that she had told at the beginning of all this. Nothing in her story had changed whatsoever. September 2004, Michelle went on trial, and this spectacle rivaled O.J. Simpson.
That's why Fayetteville still talks about it 25 years later.
Yeah. But they painted Michelle as a money-hungry adulteress. And this time, they had emails from John Diamond to Michelle. Like a horn dog on a dating app, these emails were all about sex. But they also said how much he cared for her, and he was in love with her. He worshipped the ground that she walked on, although he likely would have thrown her to the curb like he ultimately did with all the other women that he was, quote, in love with.
I mean, he kind of did when he said she's the one who shot him.
Right.
I was just there.
But the emails actually supported Michelle's story, though. There was nothing in them from either party indicating that Michelle wanted Marty dead. But why would she run, take on an alias, and get plastic surgery? She said that was because everybody in Fayetteville was labeling her as a black widow and adulteress, and she just had to get away to get a fresh start. The defense pointed out that she called 911 and that she was found sobbing over her dead husband, and that the life insurance policies and all that stuff was just a coinkydink. Did I just say coinkydink?
Yes.
Coincidence. Coinkydink. What the?
You should.
I haven't said that word.
You should leave that.
I'm leaving it in. But I haven't said that word in freaking 30 years.
Ha! That's funny.
Where the hell did that come from?
I wonder if there's something in your subconscious that's...
I know what it was. There was this band from years ago that I was friends with, back when I was in my teenager to early 20s. They were called AWOL. And they had this the song called Conviction. And it was about the LA riots.
Uh-huh.
And there's this line in there. It says, consequence, coincidence, words of something or other that don't make sense, or whatever. But whenever I heard that line, it was, for some reason in my head, I heard consequence, coinkydink.
Mm-hmm. With vocals, that could make sense, especially if they were like heavier.
And for some, this wasn't really all that heavy. I mean, it was metal, but I mean, it wasn't like a banger or anything like that.
Where people are like enunciating properly all the time.
No, he enunciated properly. It's just for whatever reason it registered as coinkydink with me in my head. And honestly, I've never even told anybody about that before ever. It's just something that was just that I heard or whatever. But for some reason that song popped into my head today after all these years.
That's crazy.
That's what. Holy crap. Coinkydink.
That's crazy. Subconscious is weird.
I'm gonna have to make a short of this and send it to that band's singer.
Yes.
Me and him are still friends. We're still friends. So he's the only member of that band that I'm in touch with. But the prosecution countered, saying that if John oh my God. The prosecution countered, saying that if John Diamond had acted alone, how did he know the precise time that Michelle and Marty would be at the office?
On the day that John went to the range.
Right. Exactly.
One coincidence is a coincidence. Two is maybe
a coinkydink.
Yes, I love it. That's how we're defining this now.
I guarantee you, at some point over the next week, you're going to say the word coinkydink is going to come out of your mouth.
It probably will.
And you're going to send me a message like, "Fuck you, Bill." Oh man. But December 3rd, 2004, Michelle was found guilty of first-degree murder. She got life with no parole. Both are still, to this day, both are still in prison. They're both still pointing the finger at each other.
Now, I know she also got an extra, I think it was 45 days.
Hold on.
She's not been a good prisoner. Let's just say that.
I'm getting to that.
And he's in Leavenworth, right?
I'm not sure. No. Well, no. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah, he is. Because he was active, or he was an active military member when it happened, and because he got a court martial and whatever, and I think they did it in military court.
Yeah, he was convicted in military court.
Yeah, he would have been in. Leavenworth is where they send them with those.
Okay. But now I'm going to talk about some of the crazy stories I heard when I was in Fayetteville. But don't go anywhere because the story isn't over yet. The military cover-up story that I mentioned at the beginning was that a general had been having an affair with Michelle, and that John Diamond caught them in the act, so the general arranged for the murder of Marty to frame Diamond for it.
That's a lot of people to coordinate.
Right.
Why would he shoot someone in the army? This doesn't make sense. No.
But if that were the case, I'm sure Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson would have made a movie about this case.
They would have done it better.
Yeah. The mafia aspect was that John Diamond was a mafia hitman on the side, and that a hit had been put out on Marty and Michelle. But he fell in love with Michelle, and he couldn't take her out. And that's why she fled and got the plastic surgery. And if that were the case, pizza would have sent out for John. Spaceballs reference.
You hear they're making another one?
Huh?
You hear they're making another one?
Oh, yeah. Of course. Absolutely. I'm
stoked for that.
How could I miss that? This Spaceballs is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
I love it.
But if that were the case, if that were the case, John would have been whacked in prison, and Michelle likely would have been as well.
Mm-hmm. Or not even gotten there.
Right. So it's just like if you listen to those, I mean, I remember somebody telling me these two stories, and I'm just like, no, that's not what happened.
No,
that's not what happened. But so I looked into it, and I got the,
those would be like the crime drama movies. What really happened would be like the Scary Movie version, the spoof comedy.
Exactly. I mean the actual story is crazier than these two. These two conspiracy theories. But although the first one about the general, putting a hit out on framing Diamond, that's just that would have made a good movie, though.
Yeah, that's true.
The Mafia one, not so much. But in 2010, Michelle got busted trying to escape from prison. Prison officials intercepted letters that were sent to her containing maps of the area around the women's prison in Raleigh.
North Carolina Correctional.
North Carolina.
For children.
Yeah.
I mean, for women. Children.
For children?
Yeah. I'm sure they've got one. North Carolina Correctional Institute for Women.
For white boys?
No, that's boys camp.
That was a Todd reference. From the Pee Wee Gaskins episode that became a recurring joke. Yeah. R.I.P. Todd. Got the powder blue right there. But
love for the guy who I managed to get to tap out on an episode.
Yeah. Oh man. But these letters were sent to her by a man who was not identified, although I'd bet that they met on Prison Tender.
Probably.
But Michelle hasn't been the best of an inmate either. She's had over 11 infractions for disobeying orders, unauthorized phone use, abusive mail, specifically the maps, and having very vulgar vocabulary. So, and she has a she has a doctorate, and apparently a potty mouth.
She looks like she would.
Oh yeah. She did not do herself any favors at all with that plastic surgery.
I mean,
because prior to the plastic surgery, she was a good-looking woman.
Better, I'd say better than after, which is almost always the case. Her haircut didn't do her any justice either. To be entirely honest, she looked more like her husband after the plastic surgery. I mean, it said that she was they did find documentation on like web searches on how to steal an identity. Was she trying to steal her dead husband's identity?
But you're not getting away with murder these days, period. So don't even try. I mean, it's just not going to happen. You may get away with it for a while, but ultimately you're going to get back. You're going to get caught.
That's
you're going to
why
get got.
They no longer need someone to commit 3 murders to consider them a serial killer. They can identify the patterns from 1.
No, it's still 3.
Technically, it is, yeah. But in a lot of cases, you see people getting arrested at like 1 or 2. And they say, yeah, this likely would have happened again. They would have been a serial killer if we hadn't caught him this quick.
Oh, sure. For sure. But you are 11-1.
Yes.
I do think that is a new record.
Yay.
But like I said, I have to verify.
We are the champions.
Oh,
Sandra bites the dust. I guess I'm doing Queen for karaoke tonight.
That's 11 o'clock here, but oh man, that was.
I say all the things everybody is thinking.
This did. Well, I think at the end of the last episode that Sandra was on, I think that the "We Are the Champions" thing came out too, because she had taken down Todd and Paul.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think. But I'm pretty sure you took her down.
Now it's going to be a thing. You're just going to have me on like once a month or so I can crush her record.
No, I'm not. I mean, she didn't just out of the blue say, "Hey, I can't do it." No, something drastic happened at the last. I mean, I'm not going to get into her business, but I mean, something drastic happened at the last minute, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I can't do it. This is going on." She told me what happened, and that's fine. I get it. I mean, shit happens,
and I'm happy to fill in for her, especially if it's something that needs her attention.
Yeah, it definitely was, but still, I still got to get an episode done. So
true.
But anyway, thanks a lot for listening. We appreciate the hell out of it. Thank you, Nora, for coming on once again.
Of course.
And I'm sure this is not going to be the last time that you're on here.
No, I got to crush your next record.
You're one of my favorite recurring guests.
This is my favorite podcast to be on.
The check's in the mail.
Is it a bunch of guitar picks you found in the dryer?
Yeah, we'll go with that. A couple of them might have the word "dick" written on it with a Sharpie.
I need to keep some of those.
Yeah, that's the only type of dick pic that I send.
My favorite kind.
Oh man. If you like us, tell a friend. If you hate us, tell an enemy. And until next time, later. The audio listeners can't hear you wave.
Oh. See you guys.